Hello. Of course, if you're wondering, Piastri is leading the race. Just before I get this out of the way. Gap, it's so small between Piastri and Leclerc. Lando Norris has just set the fastest lap of a 1:45.255. Hello there, Rose. I hope you're doing very well. This lunchtime, Lando Norris, as you know, started down in 16th. I have to say his recovery drive has not really been that impressive. Getting stuck behind Alex Albon for what was almost 30 laps, if I'm going to be honest. And of course, because of all the time he lost behind Albon, he's probably arguably dropped points in the race where, honestly, I think he should be at least 4th or 5th. Because, well, 5th at least, but hi, Kiefer. I think Max is going to have severe trauma. Not sure about that. I mean, he's going to extend his championship lead by a point. I mean, I know he's been heavily smashed by Perez this weekend, but you have to realise Perez is a master at street tracks. So it's not, well, I mean, at least Lando Norris is not extending the gap on him. But Leclerc has, well, Leclerc will cut the gap to Verstappen by about 10 points. I don't know how far behind Leclerc is right now. Is he, I don't know, was he coming into, I think he came into this weekend at least 19 points behind, but I think it's, I mean, in terms of like his competitors, I think Leclerc and Norris are definitely almost neck and neck in terms of challenging Max towards the end of the season. I think Max came into this weekend about 70 points ahead. I think this is probably the best damage limitation Max could have wished for, to be honest, despite, you know, struggling without the asymmetric brakes. Heavily defeated by Sergio Perez, who is an expert around Baku. I mean, with 8 laps to go. I hope everyone's doing well. Now, I have asked everyone, can Lando Norris take the championship fight into the final 2 rounds? Well, of course, I think in order for him to do that, he needs to be trailing by at most 51 points. I mean, he still has a chance, but to get knocked out in Q1 the way he did yesterday was really costly by not just him, but of course his team McLaren. Hello there, Chef. I hope you're all doing very well in the chat. I mean, I mean, this is the thing. I know I've criticised Lando Norris a lot around here. Yes, I'm doing very well, but his team McLaren don't seem to be that great at strategies or being able to like catch other drivers out. And there does seem to be this attitude at McLaren that they're still stuck in a midfield fight when they're fighting for a championship and they have opportunities to win races. quite amazingly enough, if Piastri does win the race, this will be only the 4th win of the season for Papaya, which is pretty mediocre considering how fast their car is. Just so you know, Lando Norris, their fastest lap of 1 minute 45.2. Okay, I know he's on the medium tyres and he's pitted much later than everyone else because, of course, you only need to do a one-stop around here in non-safety car conditions. But the fact that Norris couldn't find a way past Albon, who admittedly, yes, has a Williams that is trimmed out, very little downforce, very little drag compared to all the other cars, meaning that obviously overtaking Albon's Williams is pretty difficult. I mean, even though Albon's teammate Colin Pinto is struggling with tyre wear issues, Hamilton is literally just stuck within a 2-second gap and can't overtake him. How is Hamilton 12? Hamilton, just so you know, also got knocked down Q1. Yeah, Hamilton got knocked down Q1 and well, what's going to be said, really? I mean, he started the race on medium tyres, which I have to say is the wrong decision when you're starting so far back, meaning that with all the traffic in front of him, he couldn't make use out of his quicker medium tyres, and then came out on the hard tyres, and it's just been another hard slog for Lewis Hamilton, who I have to say hasn't been... who I think is pretty much looking forward to departing Mercedes, because let's be honest, it's just not been that great since Belgium, has it? And the past few races have been very miserable for Lewis. Leclerc has been consistently within a second of Piastri for the past 30-odd laps, but since Piastri made that huge overtaking move, but of course it does seem to be Piastri has been defending resiliently throughout this race. I have to say, I think Ferrari actually do have the faster car this weekend, but Piastri just simply has that dog in him. Absolutely one of the sublime overtake, catching late braking maneuver on Leclerc, and then when Leclerc had a chance to re-overtake him, Piastri shut the door, and I have to say this, I think Piastri is going to be McLaren's #1 driver next season. Wait, based on what you say to me, did Verstappen start on mediums as well? Oh yeah, he did start on mediums, but you have to remember, Verstappen did qualify in the top 10, so... I mean, the problem is that if you start on mediums outside the top 10 positions, then you're pretty much putting yourself in trouble because, well, I mean, the cars are a lot slower outside the top 10, and you're just going to burn your medium tyres out just trying to overtake people like Hamilton did. It's a massive mistake by Hamilton and his team, but I kind of do think Piastri is not Piastri. Lewis Hamilton has checked out of Mercedes, so he's not that bothered. And from what I can see on my timing map, Lance Stroll has stopped in the pit lane, and I think his race is done and over with, having collided with Tsunoda very early on. Of course, Stroll suffered a puncture, but Tsunoda suffered terminal damage. Qualified 7th, yeah, but I think Hamilton made a bad start. That's the thing. I think that's the problem. Hamilton made an atrocious start. I apologise, I got that wrong. I think Hamilton just simply had a bad start. It's just not happened for Hamilton, to be honest. I just get the feeling they're not even... I just get the feeling Hamilton and Mercedes are pretty much desperate to bring their time together to an end now, which has been, 10 years, 7 Constructors' Championship, 6 Drivers' Championships for Hamilton, no, 8 Constructors' Championships for the team. As it is, Piastri is leading. And his gap has now grown to 1.8 seconds over Leclerc, which, yeah, I mean, Piastri is going to take his second career win today. No, yeah. Oh no, sorry. Hamilton had to start at the back because of a power unit change. Sorry, I know it says on the qualifying charts that Hamilton qualified 7th, but because he had to change his power unit, he had to take a grid drop. That's why Hamilton had to start at the back, along with, of course, I think a few other drivers like the 2 Alpines had to start at the back because I think they did some changes to their car. So, you know, I think, yeah, I'm gonna have to delete your comment just so that people don't get confused. That's not me annoyed at you, that's just me trying to make sure people don't get confused because, of course, Hamilton had to start at the back due to power unit issues. Piastri, 2.3 seconds. Piastri's going to win, surely. Very tight fight for second between Leclerc, Perez and Sainz, though. Russell's done a great job to get up to 5th, though. I mean, he was, I think, partly due to, of course, Alex Albon holding up so many cars, Verstappen and Norris earlier on. I mean, Sainz did a great overtaking move on Albon, but of course, when Norris tried to over, Norris, well, really couldn't do anything against Albon, if I'm going to be honest, when he came across Alex, who, of course, stayed out on the hard tyres for a long time, and then, of course, decided to pit, and, well, he's been in a fight for 8th place with Alonso since. Oh my god. Oh, and Lando Norris has got 6th. How did I not realise? Lando Norris gets 6th place. Massive move there by Lando. And of course, that means Lando cuts Max's championship lead by about 3 points. So I think Max will have to really take this line down, I'm afraid. Because let's face it, in terms of pace, Max has just not been there all weekend. Oh, one of the horses has a puncher. Wonder who it is. Gonna have to look at the timing screens to see who's gonna drop down the order between Hulkenberg and Behrman. Just so you know, I think, yeah, Colapinto's now in the points. Colapinto is on course to score his first ever career points in Formula 1 in 10th place, with, I think, Hulkenberg having a problem, and we've only got 1.5 laps to go. Piastri extends his lead to 5.5 seconds. Oh, and Russell's got past Sainz. What's going on? Oh, Sainz and Perez are pitting. Sainz and... Oh my god, what happened to Sainz and Perez? Oh, they've had a crash. Oh my god, Sainz and Perez have crashed out with just 1.5 laps to go. A crash between Carlos Sainz and Perez at the exit of turn 2. Both of them dicing for position. Oh my goodness me. And that promotes Russell to 3rd, Norris to 4th, Verstappen to 5th, Alonso to 6th. Both Williamsons are going to be getting 10 points in 7th and 8th. Hamilton 9th, Behrman 10th. Behrman gets 10th. Behrman's going to score another point today. How? Oh, my. We've got a virtual safety car. What madness here, folks. Sainz and Perez have crashed each other out of the race, and it looks like, of course, those two will probably be classified 17th and 18th for all their troubles. And please ignore the graphics. I don't know what's going on with the graphics. It's just everyone's under virtual safety car conditions, so oh dear, things have gone from bad to worse for Sergio Perez. George Russell on the podium again. What a performance George Russell has had today. Struggling for pace early on. Caught the back end of the Albon, Norris, Verstappen, kerfuffle. Got past all three of, waited for all three of them to struggle with all sorts of issues. And then, of course, took advantage of the whole Perez Sainz calamity, and he's got a podium out of thin air. I've got to say it, George Russell's racecraft has improved massively in the past 8 or 10 races. And Oscar Piastri, well, he's going to see the checkered flag anyway. Well, he was always going to win because he was at least 5 seconds ahead of Leclerc when the VSC came out. What a performance. What a performance still by the young Australian who's going to take his second career win when he gets to the checkered flag. I'm speechless, I'm speechless. Congratulations to Oscar Piastri for taking his second career win. It was always inevitable before the crash, but oh my goodness, Perez and Sainz are going to be exchanging some angry Spanish words after this race. Both of them cost. I mean, Perez, I have to say, had been having the best race of his season so far in what has been a really bad year. But today he was much quicker than Max. But colliding with Sainz put paid to any chances of him really being able to return any sort of respect on his reputation. And I think that surely now has put McLaren in first place in the Constructors' Championship because, of course, I think we all have been aware that McLaren have been cutting Red Bull's Constructors' lead for the past, well, pretty much for the past 7 or 8 races. And yeah, I mean, that has costed Red Bull big time in the Constructors' table. And of course, I know Red Bull before the race said we're going to be focusing on the Drivers' Championship due to McLaren's impressive pace, but I think that crash has pretty much put paid to any chances of Red Bull making it 3 consecutive Constructors' Championship wins. But of course, I think we all know the team pretty much revolves around Max more than anything else. And as for Max Verstappen, this has probably been the best damage limitation exercise he could have possibly executed. So, to give my rankings, of course, it's an A grade for Piastri. Started second, brilliant overtaking move on Leclerc. The only thing he did wrong all weekend was not get pole position. outstanding second career win and well deserved compared to obviously what happened at Hungary where he won because of team orders. Second place Leclerc, A-. Probably should have won the race, but of course Piastri just completely outwitted him. Third place Russell, I'll give him an A grade. Brilliant perseverance and coolness under pressure despite struggling with the car earlier on. And picked off Norris and Verstappen whilst they were being held up by Albon. Then, of course, profited upon the misfortunes of Perez and Sainz colliding to take an unlikely podium. Fourth place, Norris. Ooh. I've got to give him a C grade, to be honest. I know it should have... I mean, if it hadn't been for the crash, he would have finished 6th. But, of course, I have to say his pace in traffic was not impressive. And he was pretty fortunate for what Perez and his best mate Sainz did on the penultimate lap. 5th place, Max Verstappen is going to be a C grade. Out-qualified by Perez, out-raced by Perez, and he can count himself an extremely lucky man today. Perez is angry. Alonso, 6th place. I think I'll give him a B+. Did an absolutely brilliant job today for Aston Martin. 7th place, Albon. I'll give him a B+, because, okay, I know obviously it's not a great result for Williams, but he got out-qualified by Colapinto. But his race pace was pretty good. But having said that, this is what I've come to expect from Alex Albon on a fast track like Baku, driving a Williams. So in a sense, I don't want to be harsh on Alex, but it doesn't seem like this is super impressive anymore, as harsh as it sounds. 8th place, Colapinto. I'll give him an A star today. Got points. Out-qualified Albon, and only his second Grand Prix outing. Okay, he struggled a bit late on in the race, burning his hard tyres out whilst fighting Hulkenberg, but of course he overtook Hulkenberg. Fabulous result to be getting 4 points. It's only your second Grand Prix on your second Grand Prix, and I think that's the first time an Argentine driver has scored points in about 42 years of Formula One. So congratulations to Franco Colapinto. 9th place, Lewis Hamilton. I'll give him a C-. Started down in 17th due to power unit issues and a grid penalty. And then, of course, really struggled with pace and only got 2 points thanks to Perez and Sainz crashing. Behrman, I'll give him an A+ for getting into the car at late notice to replace a suspended Kevin Magnussen, and scored a point for Haas. 11th place, Hulkenberg. I'll give him a C grade. It's a bit disappointed by Nico Hulkenberg standards to be getting outraced by a youngster like this. 12th place, Pierre Gasly. I'll give him a C grade. Did what he could in a Alpine that's not trimmed out for this track. 13th, Ricciardo, C grade, whatever. 14th, Zhou. I'll give him a C grade. Did the most he could in that terrible stake Sauber. Oh, yeah, Norris bottled it. Really costly. 15th place, Ocon, C grade, C-. Just dreadful pace. Bottas, C-. Yeah, not good enough, I'm afraid. This is going to be tough. Perez and Sainz. Honestly, this is tough because I think right up until that crash, Perez was definitely on for an A-. But I think because of the crash, it can only be a B+ for Perez. And Sainz gets a B-. Avoidable collision. And then, of course, 19th Stroll. I'll give him an E grade. God-awful performance as always. And then, of course, I have to leave Tsunoda ungraded because he got the damage to his car was too severe. Oh, Hamilton. Well, at least he got 2 points out of the Perez Sainz crash. I mean, it's not a complete disaster for Lewis Hamilton. I mean, despite having to start towards the back with a power unit change and then foolishly starting on medium tyres, well, he somehow scraped 2 points for his efforts today. But of course, George Russell, I've got to say, I think might well be my actual driver of the day. Okay, I know I gave an A-star to Colapinto and Behrman, but that's mostly because they're a pair of kids. I think for George Russell, though, yeah, getting third place, considering how slow this Mercedes is quite a good effort. When you consider how much faster the top 4 teams are, it's still a poor performance. I suppose you're referring to Norris and Hamilton, which is pretty much spot on. I have to say, Norris's fight back through the field did leave me a bit disappointed. Quite disappointed considering how easily Piastri got past Leclerc. I have to say this, as much as I like to rag on Lando Norris, I think McLaren have exposed themselves as being a team that has the mentality of a midfield outfit. It does seem as if, when you have like Randy Singh more busy and concerned doing PR posts on Twitter and Instagram and sucking up to social media, and the same can be said for Zach Brown, I don't get the feeling the whole McLaren team has got the mentality of championship winners out here. And it is only the 4th time they've won a race this year, which I kind of think, is Zach Brown ruthless enough for this job as team principal? I'm not sure, because I know Ron Dennis would have had a few angry words with Lando Norris back in like he used to have with drivers like Mika Hakkinen, Kimi Raikkonen, Ayrton Senna, Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button, whenever he felt like they weren't taking their job seriously enough. Thank you for the person who liked this video. Of course, I asked in the poll, can Lando Norris take the championship into the final 2 rounds? Well, apparently 75% think he can. I mean, he has taken 3 points out of Max's lead, so, well, as long as Red Bull continues struggling and Perez continues being caught up in incidents that totally ruin his weekend, I mean, yeah, course passenger 07, what does that mean, say? Are you referring to Kimi Raikkonen, or... Well, I mean... Trying to sit there and think who... Piastri, Leclerc, Alonso drivers of the day. I'm not sure I would put Leclerc there, to be honest, because he did finish 2nd from pole position, and he did concede a race win, which... As harsh as it sounds, I mean, ultimately, he did lose the race in a wheel-to-wheel fight. Great pace, by the way, obviously, but I think I'd rather put someone like Colapinto or Behrman in 3rd place for my driver of the day, or, frankly, George Russell. I think my drivers of the day would be Piastri, Alonso, and Russell, although, of course, I'd give a very special shout-out to Colapinto and Behrman for their performances, considering both of them have coming at short notice. And good morning, well, it's afternoon here in Britain, but good morning to you in America, Silverback. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, Russell has been decent. I think the thing I will say is that Russell has done a much better job of staying out of trouble this season. That's what I'm trying to say, because he's been involved in far fewer wheel-to-wheel incidents. He looks after the tyres a lot better. He knows when to attack. He knows when to back off. It's like, okay, yes, I know he can improve, still can improve in some certain areas, but it is a lot more... George Russell looks a lot more complete as a driver compared to what he was like last year. I mean, Hamilton has been really bad, though. I'll agree with you there. Hamilton has been really disappointing this year. Alonso's best weekend since Canada, yeah. I think, yeah, Alonso is beginning to look like Alonso again. Oh, okay. Oh, so you've decided to slag off Sainz for that performance after hitting Perez. Well, at least you know Carlos Sainz will be leaving Ferrari at the end of this year, and I think I have to say, since Australia, I think Charles Leclerc has definitely showed us who is the better driver at Ferrari now, and I think, you know, even though Carlos Sainz started the season well, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Both Mercedes drivers are capable of winning races and so on, but the problem is, you've got to realise they don't really have the car to do it this year. I think the fastest car this season has probably been Ferrari. Not Ferrari, McLaren, what am I talking about? Ferrari probably narrowly second, but of course Red Bull started the season well, but I think on average they probably had the third best car. I think Mercedes deep down only really have the fourth best car because I think really they've only really had about 3 or 4 chances of winning races, and of course, well, I mean Russell won Austria, and then of course Hamilton won in Britain and Spa. And of course Austria was very much gifted to Russell. By the way, Ferrari are now 31 points behind Red Bull, yeah, and I think I'm pretty sure McLaren are now leading the Constructors' Championship. Yeah, Mercedes are so inconsistent. Oh, I will say this about Mercedes is that even though they've bought this year's car, it's definitely better than what they've had over the past 2 years. I mean, Hamilton is arguably probably is leaving the team at a good time. Yeah, well, obviously, of course, Max loses points to Norris. I mean, he finished behind him, and Norris got the fastest lap. Well, I mean, let's be honest. We all know Max is not particularly great at street tracks like Baku and Singapore, and I think, but when you can take it into everything into account, I think Max can be satisfied because he only lost 3 points to Norris in the end. I mean, it was a terrible qualifying performance and it was an average race, but with his teammate crashing out, well, it's been a very good damage limitation exercise for the boys at Red Bull and their Dutch League driver. Yeah, but this is the thing with Mercedes is that with Hamilton leaving the team at the end of this year, I mean, Hamilton isn't really like contributing like all the best feedback he could possibly give to them now, because deep down, obviously, if you're leaving the team at the end of the year, like, why would you really want to help them? Well, dude, I don't know why you're saying it is a disaster, mate. Like, he's still got, like, I mean, Max is still leading the championship by about 68 points. His car is clearly probably only like the 4th fastest on the grid right now. So to get 10 points, whilst Lando gets 13 points in what is all going to be the fastest car, is actually a huge result for Max. Like, I don't think, like, how is it a disaster? Like, I mean, unless, I mean, this is the other thing with Lando Norris is that none of us are certain whether Lando Norris is really truly capable of winning most of the races for the remainder of this season, because I mean, you have to realise until Lando can prove to us he can take pole position, dominate a weekend, lead from start to finish, then this is not really a disaster territory for Verstappen. I think and of course you've got to realise Leclerc, who is in 3rd place in the championship, lost a race having started from pole. So, I mean, in a sense, I think Max can take a few positives from this weekend in that it could have been significantly worse than what it was. I think the worst result would have been something like Lando winning, Leclerc finished 2nd, and of course, both Perez and Sainz finishing in the points together in the top 5, which would have pushed Verstappen all the way down to 7th place. And of course, another worst case scenario would have been Hamilton actually driving a decent race, which probably could have potentially pushed Verstappen all the way down in 8th place, and had Norris won the race, he would have ended up losing. He could have lost anywhere up to about 22 points this weekend. So really, this has actually been probably the closest thing to a success for Max, bizarrely enough. Yeah, Norris has bottled an insane number of points, but yet, despite all of that, because of how slow Red Bull's car is after having lost their asymmetric brakes, and I know this sounds absolutely bizarre to say because honestly, I don't really rate Lando Norris that highly as a driver, but Lando Norris still has a chance of winning the Drivers' Championship. As absurd and bizarre as it sounds, he is still in the fight somehow. Yeah, I think Ferrari can consider it a good weekend, but of course, Carlos Sainz, I don't know what he was doing towards the end. Perez can consider himself quite unlucky because he was absolutely fantastic this weekend. And having said that, I don't think Red Bull are going to be. I mean, Red Bull have already conceded the Constructors' Championship to McLaren and Ferrari. So, how bothered are Red Bull or about seeing Perez get crashed out? I mean, in many ways, they probably see it as like, I don't know, Verstappen getting helped out a bit more with Perez getting taken out of the equation so late in the race. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is still, I mean, the thing is with Lando Norris, if he wins this championship, there is going to be a slight whiff of like this championship, a potential Lando Norris championship win, reminding people of what it was like when Jacques Villeneuve became 1997 world champion, when, of course, Schumacher and Villeneuve clashed wheels at Jerez, and Schumacher parking his Ferrari in the gravel and then subsequently being disqualified from the world championship, which I think by doing so, he became only the third driver after, of course, Martin Brundle and Stefan Bellof got disqualified from the 1984 championship for Tyrrell due to, of course, using illegal lead balls in their Tyrrell cars to keep their cars underweight in the race. But, of course, in Schumacher's case, he was disqualified for unsporting behaviour. Verstappen lost the chance to go for fastest lap, yeah, but the virtual safety car came out, so really, I mean, that's just unlucky. But you thought Norris would have only got 8th. Well, I mean, this McLaren is clearly much faster than Red Bull, and it's faster than Mercedes, so I mean, I have to say, I always knew Lando would finish in the top 5, but before the crash, he was only 6th. Which is really disappointing. Like, I thought, well, even starting that far back, he's got to get 5th minimum. Carlos Sainz at Canada. What happened? Oh, yeah, Carlos Sainz crashed into Albon. Oh, that was just silly in itself, but yeah, I mean, I have to agree with F1. I mean, McLaren probably should have won. Oh, my Lord, how many races should have Lando won this year? I think up to 7 races, like, but instead Lando only has 2 wins, and I have to say, McLaren arguably should have won 9 races, although, of course, with Piastri winning today, well, it arguably could have been up to 8 or 9 wins, depending on what if Lando had actually got into Q3 today, and what if, of course, Lando said no to team orders at Hungary. Like, this has been a very, very, very... I mean, all I'm saying is that, like, Michael Schumacher, Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, Pete Kimi Raikkonen, Pete Sebastian Vettel would have had at least, like, 6 or 7 wins in that McLaren. Like, yes, maybe they might have, like, bottled at least 1 or 2 wins, since, of course, no one can be perfect, but Lando Norris could have had up to 9 race wins this year, which is highly disappointing. I'm not saying he could have won every single one of them, because I know someone like Pete Kimi Raikkonen or Pete Sebastian Vettel might have well have only won 6 or 7 and maybe have dropped points in the other 2 or 3, but I am talking about what I expect from a top driver challenging for a championship fight, and the way Lando is driving, it is reminding me of what Jacques Villeneuve was doing back in 1997, where Villeneuve crashed out in his home Grand Prix in Canada. He threw away the win in Japan because he was, Jacques Villeneuve was supposed to be serving a race ban that weekend for ignoring yellow flags repeatedly throughout not only in Japan practice session, but frankly throughout the whole season, where apparently Jacques Villeneuve just was so bad at obeying yellow flags. And even though he finished 5th in the race after being held up by Eddie Irvine at Suzuka, he was then disqualified anyway. So, I mean, it's just like Lando Norris is making all sorts of daft errors. And the only reason why Villeneuve won the championship, because I think he also got gifted wins at Silverstone, when, of course, Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher's cars broke down. And then, of course, I think he was gifted another win at Austria when Mika Hakkinen and Jarno Trulli's car broke down. But, you know, the problem is in modern F1, mechanical failures are not exactly that common anymore. If anything, they are very, very rare. And, of course, as a result, driver errors and poor performances are now more heavily punished in the sport than ever before. So, yeah, Tottenham Hotspur of the week, well, this is the thing with Norris, is that he's got 4th place, so I can't really give him reject of the day, or what I like to call FDZ of the week, which means fraud detection zone of the week. But I mean, I would have to give that award to someone like Lance Stroll once again, because Lance Stroll is honestly doing my head in with just how much of an idiot he is behind the wheel, and the fact that, yes, Adrian Newey will be joining Aston Martin for next season, but Papa Stroll really needs to wake up and realise that his son is just honestly just wasting a seat in the sport. I mean, at least Lando Norris wants to improve, and even though, yes, I know he has a lot of problems with nerves at the start of races and has a habit of making mistakes, at least none of us can accuse Lando Norris of not trying his hardest, because Lando Norris is trying his hardest, as flawed as his driving is. Lance Stroll, on the other hand, doesn't care. Lance Stroll does not care, which is frankly far more criminal than anything I've ever seen Lando Norris do. Lance Stroll is just a lazy driver who doesn't pay attention to where all the other cars are on the track, will make awful excuses over the radio, and even attack his own team personnel when he's really angry and physically lash out at them, like we saw at Qatar last year. So, I mean, you know, Norris, you know, yeah, his team forgot to make sure that he needed to do an extra qualifying run in Q1, which obviously costed him place in Q2. And yeah, in a sense, obviously, if Lando Norris had a more of a stronger personality, he might have ensured that sort of stuff would have not happened, along with him bottling quite a few race wins. You believe, you think that Ferrari and Mercedes will have the 2 fastest cars in Singapore? I'm not sure what sort of evidence you've got to say that, because of course I think McLaren have got a very fast all-round car at this point. Like, it's not just fast on power tracks. I think McLaren also have a car that's fairly quick on the slower tracks as well, around the slow corners. I think McLaren just have a great car in general at this point. If you don't, are you talking about Esteban Ocon? Roman Grosjean. Well, I mean, at least Roman Grosjean was quick, and I mean, at least Roman Grosjean was trying to do his best, even though he was a bit clumsy. Lance Stroll just... Oh, I don't even know why I'm talking about Lance Stroll anymore. He doesn't even deserve my attention. We've all know why he's been in the sport for now, what was it, 8 years? And very little of it is to do with his actual driving capability. He was just basically born with a silver spoon in his mouth. It's really that simple, and I think justifiably a lot of fans despise him because, Like, dude, this is just annoying to think about. Like, we all sit there and dream of being Formula 1 drivers when we're like 5 or 6 years old. But the thing is, 99.9% of us don't even have a chance of becoming an F1 driver because our families are nowhere near wealthy enough to fund a junior karting career for us. Both, well, you say Russell and Hamilton have both got good track records at Singapore, yeah. I don't know, it's a tricky one. I mean, obviously, Carlos Sainz won for Ferrari around Singapore. I think Ferrari are surely going to have the best car at Singapore because it just seems to be a track that suits Ferrari's car better than everyone else's. But I think at this point, Lando Norris definitely needs a big performance now. Like, he needs to get pole position, even if his car is like a tenth or two slower in practice. He has to do everything he can to get pole position, and he's got to take the race lead and just dominate it, just making the most boring race imaginable. Win by like 20 seconds, control the lead, control the gap, manage the tyres, manage the fuel, show the world that he is a championship contender, and hopes Red Bull and Verstappen have their usual hiccup in Singapore because we all know Max Verstappen despises the Marina Bay track with a passion because he just cannot get a hang of that track. I mean, honestly, next weekend, Lando Norris needs to really cut into that gap Max Verstappen has got because otherwise I think we can pretty much say au revoir in terms of Lando Norris's championship hopes. And it would send out a statement because, of course, if he can go and absolutely pound whip Leclerc and Sainz around Marina Bay next weekend, then he's going to be sending out a statement and, of course, also show Oscar Piastri that he is indeed McLaren's #1. Team Silverstone keep up their record of top 6 finishes at Baku. Oh, yeah, Aston Martin, yeah. Of course, I forgot Force India. I think they finished on the podium with Perez back in 2018, and I think he also scored points with Perez again in 16 and 17. And again in 2019, I mean, Perez was pretty handy around here when he was driving for Force India / Racing Point. Then, of course, the race was cancelled for 2020 because of you know what, and we don't need to repeat what I mean, if you don't know what was going on in 2020, then, I mean, you were living under a cave, but 2021, of course, Vettel finished second. But I think that was the final official podium of Vettel's career since, of course, he got disqualified at Hungary, which, I mean, it's kind of unfair because, I mean, Vettel was arguably even better at Hungary than he was at Baku, but, you know, this is Aston Martin we're talking about. 2022, I think Vettel obviously got points again. I mean, this is the other thing, like, I don't understand, like, why Lance Stroll is struggling so much at certain tracks this year. Like, Monza, Montreal, Baku, like, these are all power tracks that Lance Stroll used to be exceptional at earlier on in his career, where, of course, you know, fast, lots of long straights, very few corners, and most of them being very slow 90-degree corners. I think early on in his career, Lance Stroll was an expert in these type of tracks, but now, I mean, ever since Racing Point, I beg your pardon, transformed itself into Aston Martin, I think it just seems to be Lance Stroll just, I don't know what it says. It just seems to be, it's more like a dice roll in terms of what sort of tracks Lance Stroll does well at. Like, I mean, I think one of his best performances since the team became Aston Martin was finishing 6th in the 2021 Qatar Grand Prix, which was a bit of a surprise to me because obviously I thought, wait, Lance Stroll is having a good race at a twisty, slow track. That's a surprise. Max finished ahead of Hamilton in Singapore. The guy has no motivation anymore. Well, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, what sort of objective does Hamilton have to achieve at Mercedes anymore? I mean, he's won 6 championships with them, and he's also helped the team win constructors titles. It's like, there's nothing there for Hamilton to achieve. So obviously, he's checked out of the team for this season. Yeah, fair enough, Will. Mexico 2016. Oh my goodness me! Sebastian Vettel losing his absolute blanket over Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo's antics in that race. I mean, this is a thing. Like, I think I did say this on Chazra Team's stream for the race, that the way Max Verstappen is going to win this championship, if he wins the championship, is going to be like Jenson Button in 2009, where, of course, Jenson won 6 out of the first 7 races. And then after that, he only took 2 more podiums for the rest of the season. And Max is really now making quite a real breakfast out of winning what is potentially his 4th consecutive championship win in a row. And of course, with the asymmetric brakes, of course, with the amount of controversy we've had with Red Bull in the Max Verstappen era, the way he won the championship at Abu Dhabi 3 years ago, and of course, the Christian Horner allegations and the allegations of asymmetric brakes, and of course, the mysterious decline of performance for Sergio Perez, it's like, makes you wonder, like, how well, like, it seems to be Red Bull might have finally ran out of bribes from the FIA in terms of course, being able to keep their car legal and be able to allow it to pass scrutineering tests. Because, of course, I think we all know, like, when Mercedes invented the DAS system, which is the dual-assisted steering system, which allows the drivers to pull the steering wheel out and then push it back in again for cornering, so that the drivers could have like the most comfortable steering position for the car in 2020. The FIA very quickly went out of their way to declare the DAS system as being illegal for 2021. So, you have to realise the way the FIA and the stewards govern scrutineering and the legality of the cars is quite arbitrary, to be honest, and increasingly it has been pushed more towards the side of declaring something legal or illegal for the sake of the spectacle or the show. So, and of course, we've had controversy over, of course, the flexi front wing systems that McLaren and Ferrari and Mercedes have been using for the past few races, which, of course, we all know Red Bull have been moaning about, but of course, with the FIA determined to make sure that Red Bull cannot stroll to a 4th drivers' championship so easy for Max, and what was going to be a 3rd consecutive constructors win until, of course, McLaren's recent resurgence in form. I mean, the FIA have decided that they need to really hold Red Bull back quite a fair bit. Max has said he's given up on this season. Yeah, but the thing is, though, he's up against Lando Norris. Lando Norris, I think, has shown himself to be very mentally fragile under pressure. Like, I mean, Max Verstappen could easily just do a Jenson Button and creep to the World Championship win without even having driven that particularly well himself. I mean, we have to realise, of course, Jenson Button did win the championship in 2009, partly due to the fact that no driver was able to get into any real rhythm of form in the second half of the season. Rubens Barrichello won 2 races, Mark Webber won a couple of races, Vettel won about 4 races, but of course he had a habit of, making a few mistakes here and there, and of course Kimi Räikkönen won a race at Belgium, Hamilton took a couple of race wins, and of course Fisichella got 2nd place at Spa when Kimi won. Like, there were a lot of strange results in 2009, that's all I'm going to say, and I think that helped Jenson Button a lot, because of the fact that when the rest of the pack closed upon him, no one was able to consistently dominate in the second half of the year, which helped Jenson a lot. And I think the same thing is happening now with Piastri taking a couple of wins, Leclerc taking a couple of wins himself, Russell winning a race, Hamilton having 2 race wins, despite the fact he's not driven that well this season. And then, of course, the race crash between Perez and Sainz today. Sainz having won at Australia, and of course Norris, who is supposed to be fighting for the championship, only having 2 race wins. So, despite Verstappen's struggles, I think Verstappen has had 5 or 6 wins this year. And the thing is, those 5 or 6 wins has, with his great start to the season, has kept him in a comfortable championship lead for now. And to be honest, I have said this, but I do think this grid of drivers is a bit weak, a little bit weak. Okay, let me just read through the comments. United beat Southampton 3-0. Dude, it's Southampton. Okay, let's not get too excited about it. Red Bull were unreliable in 2009. Yes, absolutely true. That also caused problems for Vettel. I think the problem is we have more races. Yeah, I really don't like the fact they have more races, but you have to realise, though, if we only had 20 races this year, I think Max Verstappen could literally get away with the way he's driving, because I think Lando Norris and McLaren would be in a situation where they would actually be running out of races remaining to rescue this championship fight. I think the fact that we've still got at least, I don't know, 6 or 7 races remaining, I mean, the championship is still very much alive and well for Lando, despite how poorly he's driven at times. Because, of course, if Red Bull cannot arrest the decline of their development, and if McLaren can find an upgrade that can really seriously boost the performance of their 2024 chassis, I mean, Lando Norris could somehow win this championship if he can just find a little bit of form and consistency. Yeah, that's true. Vettel did run out of races in 2009. That's the problem, of course. Back then, it was only 17 races for the season. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, though, but you also got to realise, though, it's all about money, mate. It's not about whether the fans are, really that interested, because the thing is, as long as Formula 1 keeps getting money from, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and, of course, get more money from Sky for hosting more races, they don't care about what we think. Yeah, I mean, look, as someone who used to support Mark Webber and was a Daniel Ricciardo fan before he declined badly, and is still what I would describe as being currently Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly fan, I think Red Bull are very much, I mean, they're a team that I hate far more than Mercedes and Ferrari combined, because I think Red Bull are the only team I think I've never had an equal driver policy in their existence ever since they became a top team in 2009. I mean, this is a thing, out of, if Max Verstappen becomes champion, I would rank this as probably being Max Verstappen's weakest championship win, but because let's face it, he is going to pretty much stutter to this year's championship win, but you've also got to realise Lando Norris is a driver who, frankly, from the way he's performed, hasn't really shown himself to be what I would describe as championship worthy. I mean, this is I've even sat there and thought, would Lando Norris be an even worse world champion than Jacques Villeneuve? And when I say that, I'm not even joking, because at least Jacques Villeneuve had come into 1997 having had an impressive rookie season in 1996, where he won 4 races against an experienced Damon Hill at Williams, where, of course, Damon Hill won the championship with 8 race wins. But Jacques Villeneuve took the championship fight into the final race at Suzuka in what was then only a 16-race calendar. So you got to realise Jacques Villeneuve had actually showed himself to be very much a potential superstar of the future with the way he drove in 1996. I mean, obviously, Williams had by far the best car that year, but considering Jacques Villeneuve was a rookie who had just come straight out of IndyCar racing, having won that championship within about just 2 seasons of competing there, as well as, of course, winning the Indy 500, like, despite the fact Jacksfield have had a shaky 1997 championship win, the fact is, like, a lot of people were impressed by the way that Jacksfield was showed such strong mentality and confidence and defiance whilst battling the likes of Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher in his time in his first 2 years. Why did so many people support Mark Webber? Well, I think you have to realise that Mark Webber was because Mark Webber was a driver who spent a lot of time in the midfield driving for the likes of Jaguar, Williams, and producing marvellous qualifying performances where he would qualify second, third, or fourth in a Jaguar that was really not good. And I was one of those people who absolutely adored Mark Webber for the way he drove back then. And in many ways, it felt like, for me, like, had Mark Webber won the 2010 championship, it would have felt like justice for the amount of, like, struggles and problems Mark Webber had at, like, Jaguar and Williams, where not only did he have a car that was slow, but he also had cars that were unreliable, that would burn his backside at times. Like, I know there were a couple of occasions Mark Webber needed medical treatment after the race. And he also scored points in his Grand Prix debut at the 2002 Australian Grand Prix, driving a Minardi, which was like a car that was 2.5 seconds off the pace, mind you. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, Will, that I would have preferred Max Verstappen to win the championship because he is still the best driver in F1, but the thing is, though, Red Bull just simply have got quite a really poor car at this moment in time. I mean, I've not seen a car fall off the pace this dramatically in about half a season. And I think a lot of it is due to the fact that I think Red Bull have lost out in a war of politics in the Piranha Club where I think the FIA just simply want to peg Red Bull back because obviously they don't want Red Bull to be winning all the time and they don't want to be losing TV views and they don't want people to be cancelling Sky subscriptions and not attending and seeing race attendances drop. Like for the FIA, they are producing entertainment is their best way of guaranteeing business. I mean, this is the thing. I think Red Bull are focusing on the 2025 chassis now that I think they've realised that, to be honest, I think due to the asymmetric brakes being banned, which I think is a fundamental part of how the aerodynamics work on this Red Bull chassis, and I think with Adrian Newey leaving the team at the end of the year, I think obviously they want to push their resources for next year, and I think in terms of this championship, I think they're just hoping for the best in terms of hoping that Lando Norris continues to bottle races and that Charles Leclerc himself has moments where he stutters here and there, and the fact that some of the likes of Piastri and Russell keep producing great results and taking points away from Leclerc and Norris. And once in a while, Perez can actually take points off certain drivers. Yeah, I think this is the problem. It does seem to be a lot of people that want Lando Norris to become a world champion do seem to be mostly just purely Max Verstappen haters, which I do find a little sad and a bit annoying and quite petty. Like, I'll admit, I'm not a fan of Max Verstappen myself, but I don't want to support a driver who I do not believe is anywhere near good enough to be a world champion or even worthy of it because, you know, look, Lando Norris is not even driving as well as what Kimi Räikkönen was driving in Kimi Räikkönen's second stint at Ferrari, because I think Kimi's main problem at Ferrari when he came back from 2014 to 2018 was mostly the fact he just couldn't qualify quick enough anymore, and the fact that his race pace had somewhat wasn't quite as good as what it used to be when he was back in his prime between 2003 and 2007. But your thing is, like, Kimi Räikkönen was still very good at overtaking people, looking after tyres, making the right decisions under pressure, good at strategy. He just simply wasn't as quick as before. But with Lando Norris, he's quick, but his mentality, his decision making, and his ability to make to just manage a race properly and really do his job is just so horribly lacking for someone who is pretty much in the prime of his career at the age of 24 years old. And it's just like, it's so disappointing. He's just so far off what is required for a top driver at this level. I mean, it would be funny if Leclerc won the championship, but I think he's just simply too far behind Max at this point. I think Charles Leclerc is the driver who I think is about to run out of races in order to win the championship. But, you know, go back. I mean, this is the thing. Kimi Räikkönen was 2 points within Michael Schumacher back in 2003 when Kimi was just 23 years old. In a 2-year-old McLaren, by the way, that was often about half a second off the pace at certain circuits because obviously McLaren were throwing money at the failed MP418 chassis, which obviously got scrapped because it was far too unreliable and it wasn't even that quick. And of course, Adrian Newey, being an absolute prat, decided to blame Kimi Räikkönen for writing off a couple of those MP418 chassis, even though the car was clearly... Like, that MP418 wasn't even passing crash tests either. It was fragile, slow, and unreliable. And, you know, 2004, Kimi had to pull up with McLaren, Mercedes producing cars that broke down after 20-odd laps. Like, at least Kimi Räikkönen won 7 races in 2005, and Kimi Räikkönen was 25 years old at this point, and right at the peak of his powers. And he was, I mean... Okay, yes, there was a couple of races Kimi was probably made a mistake or two, like Australia, where he started at the start. And of course, made flat spoilers tyres at Nürburgring. But apart from that, Kimi Räikkönen drove quite close to perfection in 2005. His car just simply wasn't strong enough to pull up a fight for the championship. And of course, Fernando Alonso and Renault had a very much a bulletproof Renault that year. So in a sense, it was just... You know, but Alonso and Renault were doing a much better job than what Verstappen and Red Bull are doing this year. So, I mean, for me, it feels like the standards have really dropped in Formula One for the past 20-odd years now. Like, I just don't look at these set of drivers and think, wow, they're so amazing. Like, you know, you've got... At Williams, you have Colapinto scoring points in only his second ever Grand Prix. I mean, yes, I know he's been helped out by, obviously, Hulkenberg having a problem late on, and, of course, Perez and Sainz king each other, but you have to realise he out-qualified Albon, and he finished within a couple of seconds of his more experienced teammate. Then you've got someone like Lance Stroll and Zhou Guanyu occupying seats on the grid that they don't deserve. Ocon getting involved in all sorts of shenanigans when he's fought when he knows better. Magnussen serving a race ban, just like his old buddy Romain Grosjean. Lando Norris in his 6th year of Formula One, not knowing how to actually drive a race properly. It's just and Ricciardo, what is Bob Ricciardo doing half the time? I have no idea. I mean, Ricciardo will come out in a press conference and say, I just don't think the car is working properly. But it's like, Ricciardo, what has happened to you in the last 5 years? You've not been driving very well. Like, maybe take a bit of portion some of the blame at yourself. Yeah, I mean, I think the way people hated Sebastian Vettel, including myself, was really petty and childish. Like, being a Mark Webber fan, it really got on my nerves to see Mark Webber not get what I thought he deserved, which was obviously a championship win in 2010, but of course Mark Webber crashed out in Valencia and career. So at the time, I mean, obviously I could remember the fallout after the 2013 Malaysian Grand Prix, where of course Vettel defied team orders and overtook Mark Webber for the lead, and I thought, one day I'm gonna get revenge on you, Sebastian Vettel. I mean, in a sense, though, Sebastian Vettel would eventually pay his dues when he went to Ferrari and got humiliated when of course, he lost the championship in 2017, and especially 2018 when, of course, he couldn't stop spinning and crashing race after race. And I mean, at that point, I just started feeling sorry for Seb, because when I heard that Kimi would be getting replaced by Charles Leclerc, I knew the end was coming for Sebastian Vettel, not just in terms of his time at Ferrari, but just really his whole reputation of being a top driver had fallen apart by the 2018 Hockenheim Grand Prix. Alonso being close to Vettel, despite, well, yeah, but Alonso in many ways is his own worst enemy, so, I mean, Alonso, well, I mean, you know, he won 2 championships at Renault when, of course, Kimi and Michael Schumacher were suffering from reliability issues at McLaren and Ferrari. And in a sense, in my head, I felt like seeing Alonso lose 2 championships in 2010 and 2012 was divine justice. But what I felt were like, yeah, look, Renault had a quick and bulletproof car during 2005 and 2006, but I always felt like Alonso was profiting from other people's problems, errors, and issues, like we saw at McLaren and Ferrari. I mean, in the end, though, I mean, Alonso can look back at a great career, 2 championship wins, 32 Grand Prix victories. Like, that's nothing to be scoffed at, you know? Like, I know Alonso fans keep saying he could have been a 5-time champion, but I mean, the thing is, Alonso had his feathers ruffled by a 22-year-old Lewis Hamilton. So, and of course, Alonso was apparently named as being a great driver adapting to new cars, was struggling with the McLaren brakes and steering system in his first year at McLaren back in 2007, which obviously caused him all sorts of issues. And of course, he also had a habit of he had a couple of errors, like going off the road at Spain when he was fighting Felipe Massa, overshooting the chicane numerous times at the Canadian Grand Prix, and of course crashing out at the Japanese race at Fuji, which all obviously meant he lost the championship by just 1 point to, of course, the one and only Kimi Matthias Raikkonen. I mean, yeah, it's frustrating, but the thing with Alonso is that it's lack of ability to, like, make personal relations work properly, his ability to, I mean, his tendency to alienate people and allow himself to shoot his mouth off in front of the media has always been something of a huge self-defeating mechanism within the Spaniard. I mean, this is the thing with Alonso, is that he's just a character who's just always rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I respect him for what he's achieved, and he's always been a very naturally gifted talent, but, you know, he could have honestly saved himself a lot of headaches throughout his career. And I understand why you believe that Sebastian Vettel deserves to be rated as a more, you know, highly regarded driver of Formula One history, in terms of the fact that Vettel knows how to set a car up. He knows how to, you know, give feedback, have better working with personal relations with people, hence why he got 4 championships with Red Bull. Nico Rosberg, oh. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with Hamilton. He made a statement the moment he landed in Formula One when he overtook Alonso on the outside in Australia, like, although I will say Hamilton had already been a McLaren's test driver for at least 2 years beforehand. So Hamilton had been well prepared for Formula One before he made his debut in 2007. Nico Rosberg, yeah, but Nico Rosberg just wasn't bothered anymore when he won that championship. I think Rosberg had achieved exactly what he wanted, and I think he had no interest in just racing on for the sake of racing on, like we've seen with Alonso, Hamilton, and Kimi. Thank you for the second like, whoever it is. I hope you're doing well. Of course, Piastri has taken his second career win. Leclerc in second place. Of course, thanks to a late VSC when, of course, Perez and Sainz collided and crashed out with just under 2 laps to go. Russell picks up a fortuitous podium for Mercedes. McLaren take the championship lead thanks to Norris finishing 4th for the fastest lap. A decent, not great, but decent recovery drive, having started 17th, having messed up in Q1. Hello there, Luka Modric fan. I hope you're doing very well. nice to see you checking in, young man. Of course, whether you want to become interested in Formula One is absolutely up to you. I am not going to put any pressure on you. Of course, I've not seen you for a while, I have to say, which is a bit weird because I did do a live stream for France versus Italy on Friday night over a week ago, where of course your nation went and beat the French 3-1, a great result, and of course you followed it up with another decent routine 2-1 victory against Israel. So, you know, very good international break for Italy. You know, I know Italy have been struggling for 3 years, but under Luciano Spalletti, Italy are beginning to look like Italy again. And of course, yeah, your team Ferrari, of course, your nation's favourite racing team. Ferrari won the last time out with, of course, Charles Leclerc producing one of the best performances of not just this season, but I've got to say, one of the best performances I've ever seen in Formula One over the past 22 years I've been watching the sport. What a performance that was. Have I been watching the Premier League? Well, Liverpool lost 1-0 to my Derby County's rivals, Nottingham Forest, yesterday, which was hilarious to say the least. Man City, Erling Haaland, 9 goals in 4 games. That guy is the Terminator. That guy is he's gonna score 50 goals this season, and he's gonna demolish every goal scoring record. Like, he's turning the Premier League into the Farmers League now. Like, dude, I think it's time just to sit there. Like, I think with Man City and Pep Guardiola, I think I actually have to pay a bit of respect to Man City for spending the money on Erling Haaland, because let's be honest, Erling Haaland is probably now worth like £400 million. Like, that guy is just too. That guy is an alien. He is not even a real person. Absolutely unbelievable. Roman Grosjean was brilliant in 2013. You know, we did show glimpses of brilliance, but of course, you know, he still got outscored by what's that guy's name? Yeah, that guy who won the 2007 World Champion, and he comes from a city called Espoo in Finland. Still couldn't beat that guy, though. Oh no. Oh yeah, Man United, yeah, they got the job done against Southampton, but what was I going to say? Yes, of course, the race order. Of course, Max Verstappen, great damage limitation exercise with 5th place, only losing 3 points to Lando Norris in the championship. Alonso having one of his best races for quite a while since Canada with 6th place, of course. I think Alonso has finally got over his mid-season sulk about Aston Martin failing to follow up on their brilliant 2023 championship performances. Well, of course, Alonso picked up 7 podiums last year. Albon getting 7th, doing a routine job for Williams, because let's face it, I always knew Albon was going to score points, but rookie Franco Colapinto of Argentina, the first driver to race in Formula One from Argentina since Massacane in 2007, has scored Argentina's first points in Formula One for 42 years with an excellent 8th place finish. And I have to say, I mean, Albon, if Albon, I think Albon might be under a bit of pressure here at Williams. Like, I mean, if Colapinto really performs well for the rest of the season and starts beating Albon, I think we're going to have to start asking ourselves, well, could Colapinto be Carlos Sainz's teammate next year instead of Alex Albon? Lewis Hamilton finishes 9th, probably one of the most undeserved 9th place finishes I've ever seen. But of course, when you've got Perez and Sainz hitting each other, well, I mean, he gets 2 points, but I don't think Hamilton even cares at this point anymore. Behrman, great performance, 10th place, beats his teammate Hulkenberg in what is only his 2nd Grand Prix appearance in his career, scoring points in both Saudi Arabia, where he got 7th place, and of course scoring points again, this time in a Haas in 10th place. And it has to be said, Ollie Behrman is definitely getting up to speed with Formula One, and of course he will be driving for Haas full time next season. But Hulkenberg will be driving for Sauber next year, with, of course, Ocon coming in his seat. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, Man United and Real Madrid are very popular for obvious reasons. I mean, do you support any teams in Italy, by the way? Like, Italy have got plenty of amazing, famous teams like the Milan clubs, Juventus, Fiorentina, Roma, Napoli. Lots of footballing history there. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton has now become a full-time beggar. Well, at least he's keeping up the grind. Hulkenberg gets 11th place. Well, I think he just let Behrman pass for 10th place because I think he just realised that it was more important for the team to guarantee a points finish than his own glory. Yeah, your family supports Juventus. Yeah, Juventus are a great club. I think they're the most successful club in Italian football history, and 12th place Gasly, Alpine are absolutely rubbish as always, and I think everyone at Alpine cannot wait to get rid of those Renault engines. I know the Renault employees have been doing protests, desperately hoping that they don't get kicked out of work and they don't lose their jobs. But the thing is, Renault have got the worst power unit in Formula One. Like, dude, this is a sport business, okay? You can't. I mean, if you're underperforming all the time, then it's very hard to justify continuing spending money on a failing engine program like the Renault team. Okay, fair enough, Luka Modric fan. Yeah, Ricciardo 13 for RB. Bit disappointing, but of course, Daniel Ricciardo will probably come up with his usual excuse of, I don't know, the tyres were not working. Oh, I need to sort out, we need to work on setup. Oh, the car development's not coming on well enough. Oh, it doesn't suit me. Like, we all know Daniel Ricciardo is just there for his PR marketing persona. 14th, Zhou. I can't wait for Zhou to leave Formula One. Yes, today. Okay, I know today was one of Zhou's better races, but I still don't want to see that guy in the grid next year. Like, this is a case of too little too late for Zhou Guanyu. 15th Ocon. I think Ocon just couldn't be bothered today. I mean, at least he didn't cause problems with back markers when he was getting lapped. Bottas 16th. I think Bottas is probably accepting his fate that he's probably going to be leaving Formula One at the end of the year. And frankly, I mean, of course, he still has a chance of getting a seat at Sauber for next year, but he did say that if it's only a 1-year contract, then what's the point? Which does signal to me that Bottas is probably going to end up leaving Formula One towards the end of 2024. Perez and Sainz, what were you doing, mate? And as to be said, I think Ferrari's decision to replace Sainz with Hamilton is somewhat justified, although of course it has to be said, Hamilton's not been that particularly great recently. Yeah, but Juventus won like 10 Serie A championships in a row, so I think that deserves a lot of respect considering the Italian league is far more competitive than the French league where, of course, PSG have also won 10 consecutive championships, but of course they're playing teams like the likes of Lille, Lyon, Marseille, who frankly just don't have the same resources as the big Italian clubs do. Stroll, he should be leaving Formula One, but we all know why he will stay in Formula One, and he has absolutely nothing to do with driving talent. And as for Yuki Tsunoda, he was just so unlucky to get in that collision earlier on with Stroll. And of course, Tsunoda will remain at RB for next season, but of course, I have to say, he's not exactly excelled in the past few races due to the fact that I don't know what it is, but hopefully Tsunoda can get back to scoring points regularly again. And I think a lot of you are probably watching the game between Tottenham and Arsenal. I have no idea what the score is between those two teams because Well, my brother-in-law is probably watching it. Of course, they are missing Marino, Odegaard, and Rice for various reasons, thanks to the international break, which I seem to be the only person who likes the international break. But anyway, okay, I'm going to end the poll. Lando Norris. Many people still believe Lando Norris has a chance of winning the championship. And you know what? I think it's time to end the stream. Thank you very much for joining me at Crystal Racing for today's Baku Grand Prix, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you.